All right, ladies, I think we may be going live.
Oh, yep, we're live.
We're live?
We
That's what it
live.
says. Yep.
Is that what it says?
Now
Streaming
streaming
live.
live on Facebook.
Well, good evening. I'm Dr. Sabrina Black, and welcome to the conversation on race. I am so glad that you are with us. We are live. We're live? Are we live for real?
We live.
Live. We
Yeah.
live.
We are
All
live
the way live.
all the way.
So is this Libraries and Memorex? Good evening. I'm Dr. Sabrina Black, and welcome to the conversation on race. As you know, we are dealing with the issue of colorism. If you've been following us for the past few weeks, you know that we have a full panel of wonderful women in various shades of chocolate, from light to dark chocolate. So if you're light skin, dark skin, white skin, black skin, we are so glad that you have chosen to tune in, because it is a very dynamic conversation. I got to warn you, and I guess this should come with a warning label on it. This conversation may cause you to shed some tears, because it can be very emotional. This conversation can cause you to laugh out loud, because some of the things that have happened are just absolutely hilarious. But this conversation can also make you angry when you hear some of the injustices that our sisters have lived with, and some are continuing to live with. But as we talk about this conversation on race, I want to introduce you to the panel, because you remember all these dynamic ladies. We have Angela Perkins, we have Mahogany Hart, we have Jane Marie, who was with us last week, and she's going to be back for the rest of the panel. We have Dr. Deborah Harris, we have Dr. Deborah Mitchell Covington, we have Maria Westbrook, we have Marlon Minus, we have Vanessa Harris, we have Mahogany Jones. We have a full panel. We also have a special guest tonight, which is Louisa Garrett, and you'll get a chance to hear more from her soon. But I want to turn it over to the lady that you know I've been sharing this platform with, who is my co-host, Denise Smith. Denise?
Good
Applause,
evening.
Denise.
Good evening. So glad you're with us again. And we just wanted to rehash some of the things that we have talked about. We went through what colorism is, what it isn't. We discussed how we felt living in our skin when we were younger, then as we have matured. Last week we had a poem where it started out, where the writer asked, "Why did you make me, God? Why?" And in the end, God replied, "I love the one that you are darkest coal. And when pressed and gone through the tests and trials, you are a diamond." I really like that one.
I really
That
like
part of
that
it.
too.
I do too.
Yeah, I am a diamond. Y'all knew that. That's why I'm
Absolutely.
here.
Yeah.
And we had the paper bag test. I love the paper bag test, even though I flunk it each time. Uh, well,
I
we
keep
were,
trying to see if I can pass Denise. Let me see if I pass this week.
let's see, did
Maybe
it
I'll
change?
go to the other side. Do I pass this week? Does anybody else pass the paper bag test this week?
Yeah.
No.
Ah! Ah!
No.
Ah!
Oh man. But you know what, Denise? I am so glad that that is not a measurement as to whether or not I'm going to get in church,
Come on.
whether or not I'm going to get in social clubs or organizations, and whether or not God, more importantly, accepts me, because God made me this way. I love the skin I'm in.
Again.
And
Amen.
everybody can't say that, but I'm glad I can.
Yeah.
Yes.
You know, as you get older and there start becoming changes in your skin, and you're going, no, no,
Just when you start
just
to love
leave
it.
me where I am.
Uh-huh.
So now that we know that the paper bag test was, I don't know anywhere where it's still being used to discriminate. We have today now decided we've already come back and looked at used the test again, and it wasn't us. But we want to go further and examine some other things.
Yeah. You know, we talk about, people say beauty is only skin deep, and it's interesting how when we talk about beauty being skin deep, I hear the old song. I know some of the, if you're over 50, you may hear the group, Beauty's only
Only
skin
skin
deep.
deep.
Yeah,
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 yeah.
yeah.
All right, so y'all know, y'all remember that.
You don't have to be over 50.
You have to be able to-
Oh,
So all you gotta do is love music. But you know, now when we talk about beauty being skin deep, you know, I hear a lot of times people say things like pretty is as pretty
It
does.
does.
Because you know, there's even a song say she may be fine on the outside, but ooh,
Ooh.
you know, there can be some pretty girls with some bad attitudes.
yes.
And it
Yes.
don't matter what skin you in, it makes you pretty, because you can be a light-skinned pretty girl or a dark-skinned pretty girl. But when we talk about beauty being skin deep, Jane Marie or Mahogany, if one of you can kind of talk about that a little bit, because Mahogany Jones did a song several years ago from, I think it was her Pure CD, that talked about skin deep. And so if one of you can kind of talk about that a little bit.
Jane, or you want me to go first and then I'll
You go
pass it off
first.
to our director?
Yeah.
Okay.
And while you guys are talking about it, I'm gonna cue the video. How about that?
That
Oh,
sounds
okay.
good. So yeah, no, in Dorm Pure or that project, we wanted to address issues that kind of get swept under the rug. And again, you know, I really just wanted to talk about my experience in regards to just being dark skinned and kind of being polarized, you know, or kind of being shunned because of my skin color. And I wanted to bring light to it just because, you know, especially during that time when we dropped the video, people would say things like, oh, here you are, look at you acting light skin, or team dark skin, team light skin. And it was, you know, and people still say it, oh, I'm team dark skin, I'm team light skin.
I want you to see expressions on these faces. Somebody said, right. There you go, acting white for real.
There you go, acting light skin. I mean, we play around and we say it, but we don't understand the effects that it has.
Yeah,
and especially on our young people, you know what I mean? Like, I just think about just some of the young people I've encountered, and especially just the young girls. And we don't even realize it, but even the young guys, you know what I'm saying? Just a lot of young guys, it's like, oh, if you're being light skinned and you're a guy, that means that you're weak, or you're a pretty boy, or, you know, you're effeminate. You know, and if you're dark skinned, then that means you're aggressive, or, you know, you got a little bit of extra edge. And the same thing applies to women, right? So if you're dark or you're darker, then, you know, it's like, a little bit more aggression. If you're light skinned, then, you know, that somehow adds some stock to who you are. And we just wanted to do the song to kind of just cut that out. And I'm so happy that I got to do it, you know, with Jane. Initially we had another person who was directing it, but I just as another brown girl who went through some of the same things that I went through, it was great to kind of have her hands in the project and directing that video, because she definitely added a lot to it. The gentlemen, they did a great job, but she definitely had a lot of ideas and things that should be added that thickened it. So there it is.
All right, there it is. Jane, you want to say a few words before we cue it?
Sure. I think one of the things that people probably didn't expect when they first heard the song or saw the video was that it's not just coming from the angle of being dark skinned, although it does talk about that a lot, but it also captures the way that it cuts both ways. So it also features the effects of colorism on a young light-skinned girl, as well as the rapper who was really awesome inside the riot. She broke down the stereotypes that come along with being light-skinned that she has to overcome herself. So it covers both sides of it. And then there's a lot of symbolism that we tried to incorporate into the video. Some great actors, and it was a fantastic time making it. So I'm very glad that we. Oh, and then I think maybe.
And Lamar.
Oh yes, Lamar. He did a sketch that he of Mahogany that's included in there, and you'll see. But it was quite an amazing experience to do that. I will say one of the things, not this particular video which you're getting ready to show, but the video that we did afterward for this song. It was a live video, and her song, that live performance was featured on NPR Music homepage, on homepage on the website, and got, I think, over 10,000 views. So yeah, So the song definitely resonates with people, and I hope the visuals capture that as well.
I love it. Jane's like, and I've said all I'm gonna say. No.
Well, I don't know if we lost Sabrina, but yeah, I was definitely proud to see the other side, being
Good.
light skinned. Yeah, she really called out some good points,
Yeah.
that
I was,
you know, things we've had to deal with.
yeah. I was excited to see young women in it, young girls in it,
Yes,
and how
yes.
you guys put them in relationship with each other, basically forming a kind of solidarity around these ideas, as opposed to feeding into this team thing you mentioned earlier.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I love that they would, you know, put the makeup on and then come back
Yeah,
and wipe it off. That was
yeah,
just
yeah. That's
chilling.
nice.
It was
That's
really
nice.
mhm.
I think that concept actually came from probably the first time when I was young trying makeup, and my mother, she's, you know, some shades lighter than me, and of course I couldn't wear my mother's makeup, and just those concepts of no, you don't get to put on makeup and pretend to be something
Yeah,
you are. You know,
yeah,
one is supposed to enhance your beauty, and
yeah.
but just realizing and we might circle back to this later, I don't know, but I shared with Dr. Black one of the very first documentary I did, which this was before I went to film school, so it doesn't have any of the technical stuff, but it's about colorism. And I mentioned one of the clips that I did not get to include was I filmed one of the women that I interviewed putting on makeup, and it was interesting to me how her makeup was a few shades lighter than her
Brighter than she
complexion.
was.
And then I thought, as I listened to her talking, just hearing how she identified herself, and I'm like, oh, okay, so
Makes sense.
yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
before you said that, I was thinking about growing up when I wasn't wearing makeup, how the makeup that the older girls and women wore did not fit their skin
Right.
spot on. It
But
was
you
too
know what's
light
interesting though is, you know,
until
that
what?
I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was just say fashion fair just changed. You know, by the time I started
Right.
wearing makeup, fashion fair became for women of color, and then so I never had that problem because by the time I started wearing it, I could find something that fit my skin tone. But I remember that line I used to see on my mother. My mother was light, but it was still not fit for her skin. And other women who were even darker than her, you could see this line here that between their neck and their face.
Yeah.
And then they started putting makeup on their necks so that it would all be the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
Then they had that dirty
Go ahead.
cop.
Yeah.
Yes.
What about summer makeup? Folks didn't teach you that, so then you had still that same difference in the summer as you had in the winter.
Right.
So,
I do not wear makeup in the summer. No makeup. I can't wear makeup in the summer because I'm like, I mean, I would have to actually go back and sit down and have somebody find the right makeup for my complexion in the summer for that to happen.
yeah.
And I learned that the hard way because I'm like, oh, you put on the wrong makeup, your face looks like it's muddy. It's just,
Yeah. Yeah.
you look like you're dead.
Yes.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And this is something that's in a sidebar that's very interesting too, and I think it more speaks to maybe racism than it does to colorism. But I don't know if you've noticed, and I think Jen and I've had discussions about this before. If you go into certain areas or certain neighborhoods, and you're a darker complected person, and you're at a pharmacy or you go to a Target, you will not be able to find your shade.
No.
And I just find that to be just very interesting, just the assumptions that are made about, you know what I'm saying, that are made about, oh, well, if we're in this neighborhood, then there's probably not any, you know, darker complected Black people here. So don't even order it. And it's like,
Yep.
That's
And
deep. Oh, go ahead.
I think that was one of the things that set me off. I was at your house, went to the CVS or some
Walgreens,
pharmacy,
either one.
Walgreens, yep, at the corner. And we were all of we were all of half of a mile outside of Detroit. And it just infuriated me that half a mile outside of Detroit, they refused to cater to us. And I'm like, oh, there are 3 shades for Black women? Because I'm looking at all these shades right here, and they only had 3. I said, they don't want us. That's what that's about. And then, and to that, when I was working on a film set, we had a makeup artist who wasn't able to make the shoot, but she'd given a heads up, and we unfortunately didn't get that message. So we're on set and we don't have a makeup artist, and we needed one. And so I was told, hey, we need you to go buy makeup for this artist, for the actress. And I'm like, oh, okay. So I go to the store to buy makeup for this actress, and I realized I had never known how many shades of white there were. Because as somebody who has to choose from maybe at most 5 shades of Black, it's like I had never seen so many shades. And I'm like, okay, what shade of white is she? I don't know. But to realize that they can cater to complexions, clearly. And they just don't see the value in catering.
It's a limited value, and you see it not just in makeup. You know, think about in Hollywood. Think about if you were a Black actress in Hollywood. What can they do? You know, you're worried. Are they going to be able to do my hair? Is my, am I going to look like a ghost? Are you going to be able to accommodate my skin for my makeup? You know, even when you think about nudes and you think about ballerinas, or you think about like how you're supposed to wear a certain shade of nude when you have a leotard, or, if you have nude stockings. It's like, okay, I remember just being a little girl and you be hit, you know what I'm saying? I'm just grateful that I live in this generation, but I remember being younger and it's like, okay, these shades of pantyhose don't match my skin tone. Like,
yes.
I was like, how is this nude?
Right.
But even in my skin, I'm challenged. I am so challenged because the white people makeup doesn't look right on me, and our makeup doesn't look right on me. I decided to stop wearing it. I just said,
well,
the skin I'm in, because I don't want to look like Casper the Friendly Ghost, So
right.
like you said, in the times when I've acted, of course, when I perform, I have to have makeup on, and no, that's not going to work for me. That's too light,
Wow.
So it's a real challenge when you think about it. A lot of times, some of my friends they take their own makeup kits with them even now, because the shade, I mean, like myself, I have a wonderful I can't say the product line, but a wonderful sister. She's beautiful, dark skin. She's like, I know just what to do for you, and she makes sure she gives me the right shade. And I have to make sure I travel with that, otherwise I won't find it.
I know when I do my shows, when I do fashion shows, when I first started modeling, they thought that I needed heavy makeup. So I was like a drag queen. It was so much makeup. Wait a minute now. So I would tell them, I really don't need all that. They said, well, the lights and the camera you need. I'm like, no. And then so I went and took a class myself and learned the shades and how to do it and put my own makeup, because even when you do shows, you spend like $50 each time or up to get your makeup done. And when I would be on set, I was in the movie, I was in Batman versus Superman as an extra a few years ago here in Detroit, and they put all of this powder and makeup on me because it was a Caucasian makeup artist, and she didn't know what to do with my skin. So by the time it was over, I got up and I said, you know what? If you don't mind, can I do that? And I tapped
Can I do it myself? That's
when I got finished, she was like, wow. She didn't know what to do with my
we do know what to do.
I'm thinking like, this is a wig. I'm like, why is she putting all this stuff on top of this? Yes, but you have to be comfortable and know, and sometimes speak up when you are, not about your makeup. Just speak up about it, because you may be teaching them something too.
Clearly.
So we talked about different shades and some of the challenges that we've had with those shades. I think this would be a good time for us to see Marlon's babies.
Yes.
That have the different. You got the unmute, Marlon. And this way we'll get a chance to piggyback on what we just talked about, the different makeups and them cinnamon stockings that never matched my legs. It's either was nude or cinnamon.
Or cinnamon, that's it.
Oatmeal.
Let me see, I can't see.
I can't see them.
Can you see it?
There they go. There they go. There they go.
Gorgeous.
Beautiful.
Oh my goodness.
Oh, I'm mad. Hold on.
While you're showing them, that's what the screen's going to be on you if you keep talking.
Huh?
Oh my God. Beautiful.
Wow.
Y'all got to stay tuned because we can't see the picture when y'all talk.
Marilyn got to keep talking.
Mommy got to keep talking.
Okay.
Mommy.
Beautiful.
Show the picture again and talk.
Beautiful.
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 Thank you. Yes, those are my girls.
Show the picture again and talk the whole time so we can see the picture. A lot of us missed it.
Chocolates.
Some of them couldn't see it.
Show it one more time.
Let me do it again.
And talk.
If we mute, then it'll be on her.
Everybody mute. Yes, please.
Okay. So there we go. We have all of them. And then my granddaughter is, I'm holding her. I'm at the bottom right there, holding my granddaughter. And then we have Cecilia and Shelby, Sabrina and Saleya. And there goes Sage, Savannah, and that's Simone. It's kind of blurry. I'm sorry about that. And Samara and Samaya. And then this is the youngest. She's actually one of the tallest ones, taller than her older sister. And Sabella, being silly. And that's the babies.
I can't imagine what your house sound like on a Saturday afternoon.
I know,
You're
right?
beautiful chocolate, y'all. Look at that.
Sometimes it's really quiet and it shocks me. I'm like, is everybody here? That's when they had a cell phone out during the screen time. Yeah, I can't believe it. I go in a circle most days like, God did this to me. Whoa. He let me be all y'all mamas.
So Marlon, one of the things that they show in the video that you guys didn't get a chance to see, unfortunately, I got a chance to go away and enjoy the concert all by myself because I couldn't action. And then I dropped off. But in the video, they talk about these little two girls and they're light skin, dark skin makeup, dark makeup. Have you had any challenges with your girls in terms of wanting to wear makeup and wanting to change the color of their skin?
Oh, yes. As a matter of fact, I run a girls program with our Greater Life Ministry, and we're always talking about makeup and the skin color that they're in. And we have one of those sessions, those makeup sessions. Y'all know we had hair sessions too. And so they are constantly wanting to have a lighter shade. And I'm like, let's embrace the beautiful shade that you are. And when I start sharing my story about being Black and being in this complexion and this skin and how God helped me love who I am, that a lot of times translates. And that's something that we have to remember to do, is talk about our own skin that we're in. And then as we've all agreed that we're beautiful in the skin that we're in, and then in turn helping our daughters, helping our young ladies embrace, as well as our brothers and our sons too, to embrace the skin that they're in.
Yes. My girl.
We're not hearing you, Marlon.
Girls, let me take the mute off. Everyone will be trying to call me when I'm on my phone while I'm trying to do the show. So my girls know they haven't had problems with like putting on, like finding shades or not dissatisfied with the makeup. But one thing they are very talented is showing young girls. They help dress up girls for prom, and they help dress up girls for homecoming and show them how to actually apply the makeup properly so they won't look like it's too much, and just be natural and bring out their natural beauty.
Somebody else? Mahogany, what about your girls? Are your girls old enough for makeup yet, Mahogany Hart?
Well, yeah, my oldest one, she is. She doesn't wear a lot, but she is very into makeup and hair. She works at a hair salon actually, and that was one of the things I wanted to point out is we were, while you were gone, Dr. Black, we were kind of talking about some old school, you know, not being able to find the right makeup and pantyhose and things like that, and I just recall back when I was in like middle school, they would do those glamour shots. You know, they bring people to the firehouse or to the school. And I was like, oh, this is going to be exciting. This is going to be so much fun. They're going to do my hair. They're going to do my makeup. You know, then this little white lady shows up and she's like, you know, putting on all the blue eyeshadow and she was trying to do my hair. And I'm like, what are you doing? So yeah, I'm so excited. I mean, just for me and where I'm from, I see a lot more Black women of color, all colors, reaching out and being, you know, celebrity hairstylists and providing those services for us. But my younger daughter, I'm sorry, go ahead, Deborah.
Go ahead, no, finish.
My younger daughter, and I'm gonna show a picture too, because Marilyn got to show hers.
Oh, okay.
Oh, she's cute.
So,
okay, keep talking so we can see her close up.
So we're probably about the same complexion, even though she is big. But that's my Nell. She's 11 now. This was probably 2 or 3 years ago. But it's one of those things where I'm kind of sympathetic for her, just knowing what some of the things I went through, being light skinned in a Black family. You know, you get called, you're trying to be white, you just want to be your white girl and this and that, and it's, you know, it's hurtful and it kind of makes you feel out of place. Although nowadays in this particular era, is a lot of mixed race couples. So I don't think she'll experience it in the same ways that I did. But it is conversations like, you know, people gonna hate on you a little bit because you light skin with long straight hair. So even I think, you know, we're still coming into an area where, you know, the bushes are coming back, and right, Maria. So we can wear a lot of our natural hair and be proud and confident in that. But I think it's just some of those things you got to kind of just keep them in line a little bit, check them a little bit every now and then, and let them know what they could be in for. But I try not to make it an issue.
Yeah. I want to say something because I talked to my daughter who's 30 now, and she's dark. I always have been. Her brother is dark too. And today I was talking to her and I decided to ask her about it. And we both agree that was not something in our immediate family, in this house. It just wasn't an issue. Pretty of any kind, pretty, color, none of that was our thing. But she had a classmate and an age mate out that she played with outside. It was very dark, and she was telling my daughter how people treat her because she's dark. This is when they were in high school, and my daughter said, and I quote, that she told her that she was pretty for a dark girl, because
I've heard that, pretty for a dark girl.
That's exactly what she said. And she said, that's what I said. That's what she told me. She said, I said that because that's all I knew. She said, but she said that helped my friend. She said she even wrote a paper about it because nobody had ever told her she was pretty.
Wow.
Yes. And she's a pretty girl. I mean, you know, it wasn't a question for us, but of course, nobody ever told her that. And so she felt because she was dark that she wasn't. Then, okay, fast forward some years, my daughter's older and she has white friends and friends from all different cultures. At least she gave me 2 examples of an Italian woman and a Latino woman who told her the same thing. And she said, she said, you know that's racist, don't you? This is Micah. Now she's woke, right?
Absolutely.
She said, what do you mean for dark friend? Well, you know what I mean. And then they tried to back out of it. And of course, she's all Black power and stuff like that and understand what it means. But at the time, and she did say, because I said, I don't know if I'm going to say you said that because she's a Black girl. She said, no, say that because that's what I said. And I was like, well, okay. Because, you know, I know better now. But that was the time. It's not going anywhere, guys. It really isn't.
It's not.
And go ahead.
I'll jump in and say, and I'm sure Mahogany may want to say it me, and Jane may want to say it behind me, Katrina. I am pretty for a Black girl.
Yes.
What you say,
Well, no.
Mahogany? You pretty for a Black girl? I'm pretty anyway.
I'm just happy to embrace that I'm pretty. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Get that concept because
Thank you.
again, being dark, you that really isn't reinforced. And it's funny, I was just watching a video, and someone was saying that their older brother always told them they were pretty, not because they were dark, but just because they were pretty.
Just
you know,
because.
and that's something that I'm proud to say that I love. You know what I'm saying? Like, I really feel great. You know what I'm saying? Just that my husband always tells our daughters, but our older daughter, that she's beautiful. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And I can tell she carries it and wears it like, oh no, I know I'm cute. I'm cute.
Yes.
And she knows she's cute, you know, and I love that. And I think that us having this conversation and the conversation between lighter skin and darker skin, for us to just affirm that we're beautiful amongst ourselves really helps drive that point home, that we're just beautiful, that we're just pretty, that we're just cute.
Well, Dr. Sabrina, gorgeosity is in the house.
Right?
And listen, and not only is gorgeosity in the house, because people were asking me how to spell it. Gorgeosity is actually in the dictionary, people. So Maria make it up.
The Urban Dictionary.
It's an official word, and it's in the dictionary, not the Urban Dictionary, but the dictionary.
Wow.
Jane, you want to chime in? Pretty.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I mean, I can't even say obviously I've heard that, because not everybody has heard pretty for a dark skinned girl, but yeah, I've heard that. And I remember even when I was younger, so I made a comment about how I made a documentary about colorism, and one of the things I did was I spoke to my aunt and I said, okay, where did I get this concept of my cousin, who I mentioned last time, who was like my light-skinned twin? I'm like, I remember distinctly hearing she's pretty and I'm sweet. And I'm like, where did I get this from? And she's like, and my aunt said, that's because you are sweet. And so I'm like, I don't know if she just doesn't get what I'm saying, or okay, I'll take it. But so just those little things about how we choose to compliment people, they stick with you and they make you aware of things. And then I'll say, I remember one time, maybe like 10 or 12 years ago, I was at a restaurant and just for lunch around the corner from my job. And this guy, I would say Middle Eastern, North African, he says to me, he's definitely, maybe Arab or Chaldean. He was like, wow, I'm not usually attracted to girls like you. And I'm looking like,
what's that mean?
I said, well, don't make any exceptions on my account. I'm okay, thank you. But
and I'm sure he probably meant it as a compliment, but didn't know how to just say it.
And I'm thinking, I don't know why it's so surprising to people. Also, I think, I don't know, maybe there needs to be classes on how to compliment people, or I don't know.
Jane, interestingly enough, I was talking to somebody earlier today, and she was saying how when she was in Africa, that was one of the things that she noticed, that in Africa, they don't use words like, oh, you're cute, you're pretty. They say, oh, you're beautiful. Because it's an assumption that everybody is cute and pretty. With your dark skin, your light skin, your big nose, your skinny nose, it's not about that. Beautiful was the way you wore your clothes. Oh, you're beautiful today. And so it's like you're carrying it, not that the outfit is carrying you, but you're wearing that outfit. So when they see you, they say, oh, mama, you beautiful. Oh, sister, you beautiful. And that's what we need to learn how to do. So people do need that class, Jane, on how to compliment each other. We don't know how to compliment each other. And I would say for anybody who's watching, when you get ready to say something nice about somebody, just stop. Don't say you are Bud. You are just stop. Make comment, because almost like you make the compliment, then you undo it.
Take it away.
Exactly.
I think when people say you're beautiful for a dark skinned woman, for a Black woman, for whatever, I think perhaps maybe what they mean to say, and a better way to phrase it would be, I've never seen someone like, or wow, you're striking, or you're so like you catch my attention, maybe something to that effect. But
and I like all that. You catch my attention, you're striking, you're beautiful. Because the thing is, they are amazed.
Right.
It's not that the fact that you're beautiful is amazing, it's that they are amazed by your beauty. So Louisa,
that's what they mean to say.
In terms of now, how do you identify? Do you identify as dark skin, light skin, caramel? What's your color preference?
I'm brown.
You brown?
Yeah,
I like the color brown.
I'm brown and I love it. You know, I have different hues all throughout my family. And so I am enjoying this conversation. Y'all are all beautiful. Thank you for allowing me to take part in it and be a part of it. Like I said, before we went live, I've been watching y'all for the last 2 weeks and the conversation is fire. So thank y'all for y'all authenticity and just leaving it all out there, because the world needs to hear this now, and they need to understand that Black women, especially, we are here, we are strong, we are proud, and we are beautiful, period. Not for a, but we are beautiful, period. And I think that's what Dr. Black was trying to get to earlier, is that we don't, there doesn't need to be an amendment to the compliment. Like, I don't need an amendment to the compliment. I'm beautiful, thank you. Not for a. Thank you. If we can get to a place where that is common knowledge and a common thing, I think we can start moving forward. But it's those labels that get us. It's those labels that get us all in trouble. And so if we can figure out how to drop those labels, not drop your Blackness, not drop who you are, but drop the for a, so that you're just who you are, period, and you're beautiful, period.
Yeah. You know, I think we're contributing to that. And thanks, Luke, for saying all of that, because I've been thinking about authors like Toni Morrison, who writes about the bluest eye and God Help the Child, and in some of her other writings, she talk about being Black and how that's perceived. So that's her contribution to the conversation. And you know, she and then Oprah did her books and all that and changed people's lives. And so I think us having this conversation and talking about teaching, and this has been a kind of a tutorial on how to compliment a woman of color, period. And so we're contributing to that conversation for people who have not got the memo that you know, all that extra stuff just to tell a Black woman she looks good.
And labels are for packages and for you know, carton and shape. They're not for us. We're people.
That's right.
You know. And I've heard that all my life. You're beautiful for a, and then they stop. No, come on with it, cause I'm ready. I'm beautiful for what? What do you have to say? I mean, finish that statement. And I've never been identified in Black, or they always ask my mother, what nationality is she? I look like my sisters on the screen. What do you mean? But I've always, as a little girl, what nationality is she? But that still goes back to you're beautiful because, I mean, but what are you? But where you from? You know,
Could Katrina jump in there? We haven't heard from you. You're beautiful for what? A tall girl? You're beautiful for a slim girl?
You know what? I've always, like I say, been tall and slim, but I've never really got that you're beautiful for a. It's just, they just say, you know, you're they just give me a compliment. I just say thank you. And the thing that kills me is though they think because I'm tall that I play basketball, or they think because I have long fingers I play the piano. You know, they assume though because I have big feet, like I can run track or something. You know, I'm like, I have long legs, but or they'll say, oh, you should model. And I'm like, well, I do. I have been for 30 years, but I don't even say what I do. Sometimes I may throw it in and say, well, I do, or I have, but I don't. I just like, oh, I just say thank you and keep it moving. But back to the question, when you said like, what color are you? I never associated myself with like caramel or chocolate or anything like that. I just always thought I was just a Black woman. Like I said, that's how my mom raised us. Even though I have a collection of sisters, it's all colors. And I actually thought that I was even, like my husband, he's darker than me, and our son is like both of our complexions to me combined. I never really just saw color. I'm just like, this is just how we're made. And I wore something to represent all of us. I have on my shirt that says, My black is beautiful.
All right.
Amen.
All
Amen.
right, ladies. So I'm probably
Amen.
showing you all my double D's, but no,
Better go, girl.
look, not at all. But ladies, I just want to just inspire somebody, let them know your black is beautiful. You know, we're beautiful in the image that God has made us. So we just have to embrace it and just walk in it.
Yeah.
And I think the earlier you tell your child that, the better. Not even about the color. Just tell them, really tell them this, tell them how great they are, whatever that is, smart, whatever. Because when you place emphasis on what's on the outside of the child, that becomes what's important to them.
Exactly.
And so
Thank
just
you.
be balanced in those compliments.
Yeah.
Just be balanced in it, because I think that's when they get out into the world, they're gonna hear enough of that other stuff. But if you give them the right kind of start, they can deal with that stuff when it happens.
And I think it's both too, because I think that as Black women, sometimes it is easier to focus on other attributes to make up for the fact that you are not clear in the fact that no, you aesthetically are beautiful. So it is important that we tell our girls that they are beautiful, that they are pretty, that they are smart, that they are intelligent, that they're kind, but to be well-rounded in how we compliment them, so that they don't, so that they're not like, oh, let me focus on being smart because I know I'm not pretty, or let me be over sexual because I know that I'm not pretty, so I have to do all these things to compensate for that. Because as women, that is a part of our aesthetic, that is a part of our allure, that is a part of what makes us women, is the fact that we are beautiful and that we beautify, or we add beauty to things. So that's important. So I don't think that we should negate reinforcing that in our girls.
I wasn't suggesting that we negate it as much as I was suggesting that we be balanced in how we compliment.
Agree.
Everybody, because I think because we live in a culture, of society that is very externally activated. You know, everything about what you're wearing, what you look like, how if you go here, you know, if you not wear hose, if you're whatever is new. Extra.
And that's so real. Being extra needs to be, being pretty needs to be the extra. It's not the
Dr. Sabrina.
I have to piggyback off of what for Jane. Go ahead. Thank you. I have to piggyback off of what Mahogany Jones said, which, okay, when you had mentioned the sexualization, and what I realized was, when it comes to, I don't want to say only dark-skinned women, because clearly you can see it in music videos. There's this exoticism that is projected onto light-skinned women, and then there's a line that you have, Mahogany, in your song about big hips, broad nose, let's catch up on the road, a super hoe, and it's like a lot of times I again, going back to this old documentary, which was really amateurly produced, because I didn't know anything about documentaries yet.
Amateurly produced, it had over 6.9K views.
Yeah, that surprises me. But there was a guy who I wasn't able to fit in there, but one of the things that he had mentioned was, because I asked about dating and attraction as well, in talking about how color affects people and dynamics and whatnot. And one of the things that this guy was saying was that he considers himself a light-skinned guy, and he is attracted to dark-skinned women, and it became really sexual really quickly. And it was, and what I realized is there's this concept of I actually had guys say to me, because, or there's this expectation that you will be a certain way because you're dark skinned. I had guys tell me, be grateful that you get what you get, just to me as a young girl. And so that definitely left the impact on me, but also just this idea that we can treat you any kind of way because that's what you are, or because you aren't prized, so therefore I can treat you anyway, or because you aren't prized, I can you have to be grateful. And so but there's this sexualized, even I remember when I got to college, some of the guys, I went to a Christian college in mid-Michigan, and one of the things that the handful of what I call a significant minority, because we were significant enough to get things done, but we were very much a minority. One of the things the guys were saying is, yeah, some of the white guys on campus have chocolate fantasies. And so concept of whatever it dates all the way back to Sarah Bartman. These concepts of Black being exotic or Black being more sexually liberated. I'm like, don't you know that we all grew up in church? I don't know where you get these ideas, but it's projected onto us, and there's these expectations, and just how colorism plays a part in that as well, in the sexualization of the sexualization and anxiety.
Massive.
Denise, you want to go ahead and jump in there when Jane was describing that situation about being overly sexualized as a dark-skinned woman? You look like you were connecting and resonating. What do you want to say about that?
You know, some of the things I've heard, but I didn't experience. It depends when color, I think, became an issue for you. I tried to get in earlier to say, ask anybody, were y'all, any of you lighter when you were younger? I was. So I didn't catch it until later that there was a problem with my skin tone. My mother was lighter, my father was darker, and we just came up kind of caramel, and we just had kind of those shade tones. But at about the time I got hormones, I started changing, the skin color started changing. And so I talked with my sister, who had some of the problems that you said. Now, we're in the same household. We wouldn't talk about color because my mother always said we're all the same color. You know, now we had the Crayola crayon, so we did know difference in colors.
Right.
But she was very sensitive to my dad, you know, so she made sure that we were all the same color. But my sister, our conversation, and she's been listening to it, she was talking about what age she was when they would exclude her out of Spin the Bottle and say that she was ugly. And what she said that one friend you had that always made sure you were on the pretty girl list made a difference in how you saw yourself. But I have heard, now this was Africans see, the African men that the school I was going to saw African-American women as loose. So, and I don't think it was my color. He saw, and this is what he said. He came to see my roommate. She wasn't there, so I guess I was gonna do. He says, come on, Janae, stop playing. You American women, you're loose.
Wow.
So see, I got it more from an African who made some assumptions, which I'm about a foot taller than he was, so that wasn't smart.
Looking for a beat down.
Getting ready to have rumble.
You read him.
And he kept insisting, even later when I see him on campus or whatever. And so I got an education of how folks saw us. I didn't know Africans saw us as less.
But you got to keep in mind, Denise, too, it goes back to the whole issue of media. Because again, when you think about the videos and the movies that Black women were casting, you know, the roles that we were able to receive, the dark-skinned woman was usually the prostitute on the street. She was usually the welfare mom who was sleeping with everybody to make money. You know, and there was always these stereotypes that were being reinforced. And so when people from other cultures see you, that's part of what they think, because that's what's been portrayed. You know, and so we were talking last week about the importance of making sure we're changing that message in the media, but not only in the media, but amongst our girls in terms of how they dress, how they carry themselves. Because if you dress like the video vixen, then guys are gonna treat you like the video vixen. They're gonna be expecting you to drop it like it's hot. They're gonna be expecting you to back that thing up. Because if that's how you carrying yourself, that's what they're gonna look for. I see you, Katrina. Go ahead.
Yes, I'm going to tell you all, I was casted for 2 because I act 2 on the side as one of my other jobs, and I was casted for 2 things, and I turned both of them down. One guy wanted me to be in a movie with the domestic violence, to be like I was getting beat up and things. I say, but first, I don't play hit. My mother told me don't play hitting with my sisters. I don't let no man hit me. My daddy did it with me. I don't play hitting. I say somebody might hit me. I may hit them back on the camera. I got a reflex, so I don't even play around with hit thing. My husband. So they really wanted me to be this domestic violence. And when you're acting, you have to channel this energy and channel and become the person. And I read the script. I say, it don't matter how many times I read the script, my mind can't go there because I haven't been there. Well, you're acting and that's what you learned. I say, nah, I tell you what, just put me for something else and take me out. And I was taken out. Then there was another thing I was casting for. They wanted me to be the prostitute. I say,
that's that.
I'm feeling you, Katrina.
I'm not interested. I say, I'm not being the prostitute. I say, it can be something else. I say, but I will not be that. I say, first of all, not only have I have dignity for myself, and I've been married for all these years. My husband wouldn't even play around with that. He wouldn't even allow me to be in the role for that. I'm not getting paid no $1 million. Even if I was, I still have what I teach my young women, what I teach my little girls in my modeling etiquette class and things is, be very careful about what you choose to do because it can follow you. It can make you, your mindset, all of that has something to do with that, your self-esteem. So I don't play around with those types of things. But yeah, so I didn't get casted and paid for 2 things, but it didn't hurt me. I'm still here. And I was like, no, but I feel good. I was able to sleep that night and I felt really good about it. And they went on to found somebody else. It didn't hurt me not one bit.
Yeah, people can't your dignity.
Yes.
Go ahead, Mahogany.
And I think that the idea, again, of colorism really isn't just an American thing. It really is worldwide. You see it with Indian people. You see it with Spanish people.
Yes.
You know what I mean? You see it all throughout the world that if you are darker complected, that it already equates to you are lesser than. So I feel, too, that this conversation of colorism definitely needs to happen. I'm hoping that it would happen between African Americans and Africans because it's really deep when you go to Africa and you see that dark men or, African countries that have been colonized by other countries or colonized by Arabs, they automatically want to associate with whatever they've been colonized by. And the women are doing what? Bleaching their skin, right? Because in those African countries, what happens? It's like, okay, those systems of still being married, those are still alive and well, and the women, if they're darker skinned and they don't get married off, sometimes, so, and that's not all African countries, but that's definitely some African countries. And that's a conversation too, I feel that we have issue with as Americans, the way that our minds have been shaped to not appreciate our African features. You know what I mean? Right. So that there is this sort of self-hatred that happens for our men, when our men go to choose and select a spouse or select a woman, a lot of times it's not a Black woman, and I applaud and I'm so grateful just for Black men that love Black women. I just really, I'm so grateful for my husband who's like, oh no, you're beautiful to me and you're Black, you're my color. And I like that. You know what I mean? When I see men.
You can't see your sisters doing high fives in the background.
I'm sorry, but you know what I mean?
I know exactly what you mean.
Yeah, and that's not to negate or take away from, lighter complected women again, because I know that has its struggle. But it's just conversations that I'm happy that we're unearthing and we're having, because if we're ever going to love ourselves and love ourselves out of having to wear makeup, you know what I mean? Even, having to contort our features so that they're softer, or, love ourselves out of having to pimp ourselves out and over sexualize ourselves just so that we can know some sort of affection, when you're darker and you're pushed away, just so that we can really begin to accept. I think some of us who are darker skinned accelerate because, again, if you weren't going to be cute, you had to be the smart one, or you had to be the overachiever, or you just had to be extra fly. You had to throw that extra on top of it because you weren't enough. You know what I mean? So I'm happy that we are unearthing these things so that we can get it straight.
You talked about this issue being global. It's interesting, when we were putting this panel together, we were very intentional about making sure that we had light-skinned sisters as well as dark-skinned sisters and sisters in between. And I actually approached 2 Hispanic sisters to be on the panel to again talk about that diversity of the fact that colorism is an issue in various cultures. One lady's response was she couldn't be on the panel because she identified as being white, even though she's Hispanic. And she said, you can see the expression on y'all faces, and she said that she did not want to confuse the community that she's engaged with. And she says, you know, they see me as white because I live in a white community. I live in a white environment, and nobody really understands my heritage. And I don't know that I'm ready to have that conversation. And the other one had a similar story. And she was saying that even though she was a dark-skinned Hispanic woman, it was too painful to talk about, because she said that a lot of times she got ostracized by her lighter-skinned Hispanic sisters. And so she said she wasn't sure if she was ready to have that conversation. So again, just to know that this is not just a Black thing, that this is a people thing. This is a people of all color thing. No matter what color you are, dealing with your color issue can be a problem. So Maria, if you could unmute your mic. I know we were talking about different poems that spoke to the issue of color and childhood and growing up. And we've spent a lot of time talking about the messages we've received in childhood. But there was a poem by Nikki Giovanni that we want to listen to, and then kind of comment about that in terms of that transition to adulthood. If you could share that with us.
Be honored to do so. Can everybody mute their microphones real quick? And I'm privileged and honored to be asked to read Adulthood by Nikki Giovanni. I used to wonder who I'd be when I was a little girl in Indianapolis, sitting on doctors' porches with post-drawn pre-debs. I wondered, would my aunt drag me to church Sunday? I was meaningless. And I wondered if life would give me a chance to mean. I found a new life in the withdrawal from all things not like my image. When I was a teenager, I used to sit on front steps conversing with the gym teacher's son with embryonic eyes about the essential essence of the universe and other BS, recognizing the basic powerlessness of me. But then I went to college, where I learned that just because everything I was unreal, I could be real, and not just real through withdrawal into emotional crosshairs of colored bourgeois intellectual pretensions, but from involvement with things approaching reality, I could possibly have a life. So catatonic emotions and time-wasting sex games were replaced with functioning commitments to logic and necessity, and the gray area was slowly darkened into a Black thing. For a while, progress was being made along with a certain degree of happiness. Because see, I wrote a book and found a love and organized a theater and even gave some lectures on Black history and began to believe all good people could get together and win without bloodshed. Then Hammarskjöld was killed, and Lumumba was killed, and Diem was killed, and Kennedy was killed, and Malcolm was killed, and Evers was killed, and Schwerner, Cheney, and Goodman were killed, and Luizio was killed, and Stokely fled the country, and Leroy was arrested, and Rapp was arrested, and Pollard, Thompson, and Cooper were killed, and King was killed, and Kennedy was killed. And I sometimes wonder why I didn't become a debutante, sitting on porches, going to church all the time, wondering, is my eye makeup on straight? Or a withdrawn discoursing on the stars and moon, instead of a for real Black person who must now feel and inflict pain.
Yeah, and then George Floyd was killed, and then Breonna Taylor was killed, and several others were killed, and too many named to even call were killed. You know, as we make progress, it seems that we move forward and we step back. And so we have to make sure that we continue to march forward. And so even as I was listening to Maria share that poem by Sister Nikki Giovanni, and she says, you know, I was sitting on porches, you know, with pre-debs, thinking about these things that probably were never going to happen in my lifetime because I felt meaningless. And then I grew up and I started to find that there was going to be meaning in my life. But one of the things she talked about was she got to college and she decided, you know what, maybe I'll become an intellectual and let go of the sex games. And a lot of those sex games were the things that she had to do to fit in and to get in, and because somebody said that's what makes you beautiful.
Nikki Giovanni was deep.
And so again, all those things we're talking about, that somebody was talking about years ago. So even this conversation is not a new conversation. It's just that it's my hopes and my desires that as we have this conversation, there'll be a new generation of women who will rise up and realize that they got to stop sitting on porches dreaming, and that they need to begin to live life. And to live life as a proud Black woman, no matter what skin you're in. So ladies, if you can talk for a moment about what is it that you would tell that little girl sitting on the porch? You know, Denise and I had this conversation, and she was asking about the inner child. And so Denise, you know, ask the question that you and I talked about, because I'd love to hear these women respond to sitting on porches, and what would you tell that little girl?
I was thinking of a 5-year-old, the 5-year-old me. What would I say to that 5-year-old? I have a granddaughter who is who I was before they told me it was wrong. I see things in drama. If you tell me a problem, it's gonna start having animation all of a sudden. And I'll give you an example. At 10, I wrote a play about polio, and it went on PBS. And I animated the syringe, the polio, and the vaccination. Now, where did that come from? My head. Well, my mother used to always say to me, Denise, why you dramatize everything? So I got the message something was wrong with that. I still see it today. I still see things in drama. But my 3-year-old granddaughter does everything in drama. She plays musicals. When she was a baby, I'd say, oh, she's awake. They said she'd be talking in her sleep. She just has this bubbles about life is just great. And so I was thinking about, I said, but they encourage her to be dramatic. They encourage her to, she's the entertainer. And I said, so if someone had said differently to that message, I might be doing movies now, you know, instead of counseling, or that would have been my side hustle, something. So
it may still be your side hustle by the time we done. Look,
right?
Jane may make a video of all of this later on, who knows? But so that became the question. So what is Denise going to tell her little child, that little girl who may have gotten the wrong message? So ladies, think about that if you would, and just kind of unmute your mics and talk about what would you tell your inner child or your little girl sitting on the porch as an adult now, thinking about where we are in the world. What's the message you want to give to her? And think about the mothers who are going to be listening and things they may tell their little girl. I see you, Katrina.
Yeah, I would just honestly say you can't please everybody. You know, you can't please everybody. Everybody's not going to like you. Everybody's not going to like what you do. Everybody's not going to accept you. You know, so don't try to force yourself to be in somebody else's circle when you're a square yourself. You know, be yourself. Can't nobody beat you at being you.
That's
and
right.
That's how I was raised. And I honestly survived life. Honestly, I'm 45 years old. And I can honestly say that God has helped to cover me in pitfalls, in distractions, in so-called friends, girlfriends, guy friends, family members, by keeping my eyes open and my ears open to hearing what my mother taught me. Thank God for I praise God for my mom. She's still living. I treat her like a queen. I told her, I say, mother, is nowhere that I can't take you because you you taught me everything I know. She's 66 and she runs my school, my daycare. I'm successful how I am because of how she raised me. And she has no degrees, no anything, but she's a minister. She went to college, but she didn't finish. But she was a homemaker. And she made sure that when we came home from school, our dinner was cooked, our home was clean. My dad worked at Chrysler, so he took care of everything for us to finance. He gave her everything that we needed. I never lacked. Everything. God was we were really blessed, thank God. But she wanted to make sure she grew up poor. So she wanted to make sure that we didn't grow up with poor, how she grew up. So she taught us, and now we're teaching our children. And now my son's an entrepreneur. He's doing things that I did when I was younger. So, and he's only 19, you know, to do things. So it's just so the generational curse was broken with her. thank God, from a home of 17 sisters and brothers. You know, so God blessed me to be able to see that. But everything she taught me is what I share with the younger people and older people who I come around. I don't think I'm better than anybody else or anything like that. Honestly, I just try to live how God would want me to live, and I treat others how I want to be treated.
Mahogany Heart, what would you tell your little girl?
Based on some of the things I went through being light skinned in a Black family, Black community, I would say don't lower your voice. That's something that I learned to do and took on, because whenever I did go to speak, express myself, raise my hand in class, I got the her, you know. So I think, and maybe it's part of who I am today, is I'm not always the first one to speak up. I wait until I really have something to say before I say something. So I think that would be my message to anyone younger. Don't lower your voice because of what you look like or someone perceives you to be on the outside. And also mimicking what Katrina said, be yourself. And particularly for my daughter, she's at this age where, you know, you're influenced by everything and everyone. And I from day to day, I can't figure out who she is. But yeah, don't lower your voice.
Yeah, you know, it's interesting, Mahogany, as you talk about that. You know, I remember my mother said that I talked early. So I think she said I was actually talking in complete sentences at 6 months old. And, you know, and I know it sounds strange, but at 6 months old, I was holding entire conversations. And she said, people kept saying, is that baby talking? She can't be talking. She's too young to be talking. And my mother said, I wouldn't mute. And then I wouldn't talk for a whole year. And she said she couldn't believe I went from having entire conversations at 6 months, all of a sudden not talking because people kept saying I was too young to be talking. I couldn't possibly be talking. Wow. And then she said, once I started talking again, I didn't stop.
But I can hear Mama Dickerson now. Go ahead, baby.
And it's funny because I talk for a living. And I just keep thinking, suppose somebody had told me, stop talking again, and I stopped. But wow. I'm so thankful that I realized that God gave me this voice for a reason. And so now I speak with this voice, I sing with this voice, I counsel with this voice, I coach with this voice. I do conversations on race and other conversations with this voice. And so thank you. Don't silence your voice, ladies. Don't silence your voice, men. If you got something to say it. Even if you stutter, take your time and get it out. Write it out and read it, but say what you need to say. Somebody else, what would you tell your little girl, Angela?
Know your worth. Love yourself. I can piggyback off what everybody says. You are important, because I was a child that was put down by my dad. I was too Black. I was not going to be this. I was not going to be that. So I decided, because my mother loved me so much and said that I was so much, that I didn't like anybody. I didn't trust anybody, but I didn't talk to anybody. I didn't say anything to anybody. I was quiet for a whole lot longer than a year. My teachers thought something was wrong with me because I didn't communicate. But I've learned to love me and trust me and only me very soon. So know your worth. Know your worth something. Look in the mirror, no matter what God has given you. Make that be your platform and walk with it. Do you to death, because nobody else can do you. Wear your crown, because nobody else can fit your crown. Your crown is made for you. Wear it and speak. Yes. Say something to somebody. Even I don't have a role model. I don't have the Dr. Blacks and their mother Denise's and that were in my life younger. I had my mother that was scared of the world and knew the Bible but didn't know the Bible, if you understand what I'm saying. Mm-hmm, but know who you are and whose you are very soon. And let yourself love yourself through it, because that's how I had to do. I had to love myself through it because I didn't think nobody else did.
Yeah, I see your sisters all waving in the background. Look, they all waving. And you do have to love yourself through it. Deborah Harris, if you want to jump in, then Louisa, jump in behind Deborah. And then Maria behind her. Unmute your mic, Deborah.
I was just listening to everyone, and my parents tell a story about me knowing the Lord's Prayer when I was 2, and how I knew it, and my brothers were older than me and they didn't know it. And so if I were to say something to that young toddler, I would say God speaks to you, and always tune in to that.
Amen. Amen. And so often people feel like children don't know. God is speaking even to children. So don't negate that. All right, Louisa.
Yeah, I would tell my younger self to own your awesome. I've always been a very empathic person. And so I feel everything. And so energy is huge. And I was listening to Jane talk last week about her experiences growing up and how she went. And actually, Jane, you and I have similar backgrounds where I started off in an all Black school where we only had one white person in the school. And then I moved in 4th grade to an all white school where I was one of 2 Black people in my 4th grade class. It was one little Black boy, and then I showed up and it was us, right? And so I would, you know, when I moved there, and I did a post about this not too long ago after George Floyd happened and you know, this great awakening was going on and everyone was wanted to be woke and whatnot. And when I was in 7th grade, I was 13 at this time, a little white girl came up to me. She, you know, had blonde hair, blue eyes. We were friends, you know, and, you know, we were friendly. And I had already gone through 3 years of proving myself and I had found my people. So I had thought, and she came up to me and she was like, you know, there's a difference between an N-word and a Black person. And you are a Black person. And I was like, what? Like, excuse me? Like, what are you saying? And so it's just, for me, I've always been a part of the Rainbow Coalition. Like all of my friends, we're very diverse. And I enjoy that because we can learn so much from each other and we can learn so much from our different backgrounds. And going from that all Black neighborhood and that all Black school and only knowing all Black, like I didn't even realize white people went to church until I moved to my white neighborhood, because there was no white people at my all Black Baptist church. And so one day I was talking, it was like Friday or whatever, and I was asking one of the girls, I was like, well, what are you gonna do this weekend? And she's like, well, you know, Saturday I'm doing this, blah, blah, blah. And then Sunday I'm going to church. And I was like, what do you mean? What do you mean you're going to church? She was like, I'm going to church, you know, church. And I said, oh, you go to church? I had literally had no idea that white people went to church because I was not my experience. And so I would tell my younger self to be open to new ideas, to own who you are and stand up for who you are. And what I should have said to the girl who was like, you're not an N-word, you're a Black person, it's something that I did not say. I should have been like, well, I am Louisa Garrett. And I am here and I am strong and I am capable. I am smart. I am intelligent. I should have said, gone down the list, but it took my breath away and it hurt my heart because I didn't understand how the N-word so easily came off of her tongue at 12, 13 years old. Yeah. And to think that she was giving a compliment when in fact she was not. And so my message I have 24 nieces and nephews and they are the loves of my life. And my message to them is to be who you are, own who you are, stand up for who you are. And if people are trying to put you down or negate your beauty and negate your boldness, you stand up for who you are and you tell them exactly who you are. And, you know, in a kind way, because I'm all about kindness, but you can be kind and strong. And that's a misconception. People often confuses kindness for weakness, but kindness is the strongest thing that you can be. You can be kind and bold, kind and brave, kind and loud. And so that would be my message, is to be kind and loud when people are trying to put you down.
All right, kind and loud. And unfortunately, Louisa, the little girl didn't know at the time that she was being the N-word, which means to be ignorant.
Ignorant, right.
Right.
All right, Maria, I saw you want to jump in there. I hear everybody snapping in the background.
Wow. I think about, as I mentioned in the first series of this wonderful colorism panel, that it was about 5, 6 years old that I came home asking my mama what I was. And my mama saying, I'm Black, your father's Black, you're Black, but you have a choice. And I'm so glad that that 5-year-old little girl decided to be true to who she is, who she was, who she is, in spite of the pain that I've suffered a lot of my life, a lot of insults, a lot of agony in the skin. I'm so glad that that 5-year-old little girl sitting on the projects in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, decided to be Black and proud.
Yeah, I'm glad too, Maria, because I know when you first mentioned that story, I just thought, how interesting is that your mother said you have a choice.
I could have tried to pass. I mean, right? So many people, especially in the 60s, were still choosing to pass. And I didn't quite understand that concept at 5, 6 years old, but I did understand what it was to be Black and proud. So for me, you know, around the 60s, you know, mid to upper 60s, that was a time when thankfully we were finally starting to try to embrace that pride. So that was the best time that that 5-year-old in me had to grow up in and be true to who I was. And so even to this day, I call a lot of people out. I'm like, why are you trying to pass? You know what you are. I see you. I know. I call it out in a minute. And I'm so honored to just in watching each of your expressions and hearing your stories and the beautiful skin that you're in, that there's an embracing. And I don't always get to hear that in some of the circles that I sit in. And I'm very thankful that you all, even in your 5 years old, so to speak, decision making, and even now in your decision to continue to be beautiful in the skin you're in, that encourages me more than you know. Thank you.
Yeah. Mahogany Jones Marshall. Well, what are you going to tell your 5-year-old girl sitting on the porch? And what are you going to tell your chocolate chip?
Well, I'm telling my little 5-year-old girl to fight for yourself, and to accept yourself, and you love yourself and you like yourself, and don't worry about other people loving and liking you. Like, you love and you like you and you accept you and celebrate you. And just, you know, the things that you do that are great, don't turn yourself down, don't shrink, don't try to fit in and not be great because it makes other people uncomfortable or you feel that they're isolated. No, like, celebrate yourself and give other people the room to celebrate their greatness, but you celebrate your greatness too, and don't feel like you have to downplay yourself or downgrade yourself. So that's what I'm telling my 5-year-old self. And I'm gonna tell my little Chip that she's awesome and she's so beautiful and extraordinary, and that she's kind and generous and loving, and that she's great just because she's herself. Yeah, say hi. So.
Oh, that was beautiful. Thank you for sharing your chocolate chip with us. Somebody else, what are you going to tell your little girl? Jane, what are you telling your little girl?
I've been thinking about that. I think back to when I was real little, and I think my confidence was pretty good, you know. I think I don't know. I think I would probably tell myself.
Let's go to the other side. Let's go to the other side, baby.
Maybe I'll tell myself that. No, I would tell my younger self, you have so much light in you, and instead of letting people tell you there's something wrong with it, try to give your light to people. Because I think everybody internalizes stuff that people say, and I don't know. I'm really grateful that for the most part I continue to like myself throughout, growing up. I think the times when certain things about me were under attack, that maybe letting myself know the reason why you're under attack is because you're powerful. It's because you're needed. It's because there's something great about you, and God put all of this in you, and you have the ability to give it out. I know that I had friends when I was younger, like the one white friend in my Black school, and she was multicultural. She used to joke about being the UN, and I'm like, I loved her. She was a lot of fun, and I realized how while I was being teased for being too Black, she was being teased for being white, and it's like, people are really broken, and people are really stupid, and they just don't know, and just I'll probably tell her that you don't know what other people are going through. Just because somebody lighter than you is teasing you for being light doesn't mean that that their life is perfect, or that their sense of identity is perfect. And I don't know. I just think that there's a lot of power and compassion. So maybe if I if when I was younger, because oh man, I remember when I was in 6th grade, playing the dozens on the playground. I did not like to do that because I don't like being mean. I don't like talking about people, but I would be picked on, and it was to the point where they would try to make me say something. And I remember they would just come at me about how dark this and dark that. And I remember saying to this one light-skinned girl that she was so white, and it felt like that was such apparently the deal breaker. I'm looking like, I can be Black as night, but I can't come at you like that. I didn't understand. Later, being grown up, it's like, dang, I really regret saying that, because I didn't understand the hurt that caused. And at the same time, I don't know, I guess for me, no amount of hurt is just like,
it's
okay,
not justified.
It's just not justified.
Yeah.
So yeah, like we're Facebook friends now, so I think I'm going to apologize to her for that. But but just realizing, as children, don't fall into the trap of trying to hurt people, especially since that's not who I am, and that's not who, like, that is counter to what I'm supposed to be doing here on,
I like, Jane, when you were saying to tell that little girl that she's powerful, and that she has such great potential. And I think about the organization that we started, Girls with Great Potential. That was the whole message behind that, to help those little girls realize that there was so much in them because of what God put in them and who He designed them to be, and the inherent value and worth they have simply because they exist, not because they've done anything. Because I didn't want them to become just performance driven, because we can start feeling like it's the things that we've done that make us somebody. It's by virtue of the fact that God made me that I'm somebody, and that I can embrace that I am fearfully and wonderfully made, and I can know that right well. And so as we talk about messages that we need to give those little girls sitting on porches, we also need to think about those little girls who don't have porches. Those little girls who just sitting on the front stoop.
Yeah.
And then go ahead, Denise. Like, I see you. She said, "Yep, all them girls ain't got porches." So what about those little girls who just hanging out in the back, that's sitting on the stoop? Some of those girls need messages not only about how beautiful they are, but they also need messages on boundaries. Like what are the limits? Like, where do you not let people touch you? What do you not let people say to you? What do you not internalize and accept? So a couple of people, if you can jump in and say, what are some of those boundaries that you need to help little girls have?
I want to back you up before you move from that.
Okay.
The question that we asked about what would you say to your younger self is really resonating online.
All right, thank you.
And one of them, Vanessa, who's not here today, this was her comment, so we're going to get her in, even though she's not here. Said, be empowered and don't fear success. That was one of them. Someone else said that they didn't necessarily feel colored. They felt being themselves. They didn't deal with the hues of their shade. It would tell them to don't deal with that, but find out who your authentic self is without having to define, are you butterscotch Are you vanilla or are you dark chocolate? Just embrace wherever you are. And I could resonate with that because remember I told you I was lighter when I was younger. So that means I changed. And if I had been relying on the color, I would have been real messed up. So I told you I had other issues, fat, tall, all those things. I had those issues.
Yeah. So we got a lot of messages we need to teach young girls. I'm glad you brought out some of the things that people are saying online, Denise. Thank you for that. Yeah. Anybody else want to jump in and talk about that? Go ahead, Deborah and Jay.
Oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say to what Denise said, I think one of the things that I had to learn was God put me in this package for a reason. Okay, there was something that I wanted to say last week, which I don't know if it really tied in, but I'll say this, maybe try to give a 45-second spiel.
Go for it.
One of the things I realized is that I know, again, those messages that they tend to tell dark-skinned women, or at least that I heard about, taking what you can get, or just that try to diminish your value, and just so many other things. And then being single, of course, that you start looking at others, trying to figure out why and whatever. One of the things that I learned was from the book of Ruth. What I realized was when Boaz came back home to his land and whatnot, and we always talk about, oh, Boaz noticed her working or whatever. And what occurred to me is Boaz noticed her because she didn't look Jewish. She looked different. She was different from everybody around. And so I'm like, sometimes your differences, it's like, how else is your one supposed to notice you if you look just like everybody else? It's like, no, you're in the package you're in because you're supposed to be noticed. And so, yeah, that was just one of the things that
all right. Well, in the package you're in because you're supposed to be noticed. Yeah. All right. Louisa, did you unmute to say something?
Yeah, I was going to just piggyback off of what Jane said earlier about grace and not knowing what people are going through, because that's the key. Everybody has stuff. Everybody, it doesn't matter who you are, from the Queen of England to whoever. Everybody has stuff, and everybody has gone through something. And if we can recognize that and honor that and offer grace, not only to other people, but also to ourselves, because that self-negative talk, that self-doubting is debilitating. And if you can offer grace to yourself and help yourself understand that, as Jane just said, you are put in your package, they're just the way you are, no matter what hue, what color, what shape, how tall, how short, does not matter. You and only you are you. And so own that and go out there and be the best you can be, and don't worry about anybody else. A flower doesn't look at the other flower and be like, oh dang, you blooming too. No, we all can bloom. Everybody, let's bloom together. Okay,
that's good.
You blooming too? That's look. I'm gonna start using that. We need a T-shirt that says, "Are you blooming too?"
Are you blooming too? Come on now, we all can bloom together.
All right, Dr. Harris, you want to say something?
I'm going to speak to the girl with no porch.
Okay.
And I guess as we want to embrace young women who we see their needs, I guess my thing was thinking about, when she talks about everybody got a story, they should be sensitive to the story that they have, because they're doing what they're doing because that's what they know, that's what they see, that's what they've been taught. And so as you approach someone who, like Louisa said, is blooming in their way, just be sensitive to where they are. And I guess don't invite yourself, ask if you can come in. Because then you start talking to them, they'll listen to you if you ask them if you can come in.
And if I may say, I deal with young ladies constantly because having come out of homelessness myself, That's my heartbeat. That's what I do. And when I hear some of the stories of our young ladies, particularly in our girls program, who express how terribly they feel about themselves. And of course, I can, as I mentioned earlier in the program, I can talk about how I've learned how to embrace the skin I'm in. I realize, hello, I need a team of sisters around me of all chocolate shades to be able to tell all my beautiful chocolate shade young ladies how beautiful they are from someone who's their complexion, and to be able to embrace that, but also to help our young people face the reality that they're in, and that the reality of life, and that is that there are other people that will put us down. There are other people who will make significant negative statements against us, but being able to hear somebody who's gone through, just like with each of us, telling someone our story and being a help. A lot of times, sister girls wouldn't talk about that and wouldn't talk about it with our young girls. And then in turn, helping them get a porch, helping them find a porch.
Woo, wait. Oh, can I jump in?
Go ahead and jump in, find a porch, talk about it.
So two things I want to say. One, I want to say thank you so much, Maria, for doing what you do, because I can remember my identity being shaped by a girl. She was Black and she was Puerto Rican. Her name was Cicely Weiss. Loved her. I just thought she was so beautiful. And I still remember being younger and her telling me, I asked her, I was like, oh, because I thought she was pretty. So I was like, oh, well, do you think I'm pretty? She's like, no, I think you're ugly. And carrying that. So it's so beautiful, you being the complexion that you are, telling darker complected girls like, oh, I think you're beautiful, and us being mirrors for each other on each side, like, oh, you think I'm beautiful? Oh, I think you're beautiful. I think that's really powerful. And two, how again, because beauty is so attached to the idea of womanhood, how that also affects your identity and how you see how capable you are. You know what I mean? And can be limiting and can inhibit you and block you from being able to go get your house and get your porch because of how you see yourself and what's going on, and not feeling responsible or not feeling capable. You know what I mean? So us breaking those stereotypes definitely does help somebody go get their porch, get their house, get their life,
Mahogany, say it.
Listen, and the conversation could go on forever, but it does have to come to a close at some point. This is the conversation on race, dealing with the issue of colorism. This is week 3, and we have one more week left. Denise has said, you know what, we just need to keep this going. And so we're going to add 2 more weeks dealing with the issue of colorism, but we do have to switch it up a little bit. And so just like we had some women who were on the panel here, some of these women will be coming off the panel and some other ladies will be coming on. So if you've been watching and saying, man, I wish I could have been on the panel, this may be your opportunity, because next week is the last week for a lot of the ladies that are on the group right now, because they committed to 4 weeks having this conversation. And this conversation has been so powerful, but there's still so much more that needs to be said, and that can be said, and that will be said. And so continue to tune in as we have the conversation on race. But as we close out, you ladies were talking about celebrating your sister, and it made me think about what Paul said about Phoebe in Romans chapter 16. He says, I commend to you our sister Phoebe. He says, the girl is a worker. She has been of help to me. Receive her in the Lord and do whatever you can to help her. And I want to commend to you all of my sisters here on the panel. As you are looking at these women and you're saying, man, I wish I could connect with Mahogany, and I wish I could connect with Louisa. And what happened to Vanessa? I want to connect with Vanessa, and I want to connect with Denise, and I want to connect with Dr. Debbie and Dr. Deborah, and I want to connect with Mahogany Hart and Mahogany Jones. As you're saying, I want to connect with these women. I commend to you my sister Katrina and my sister Jane and my sister Angela and my sister Reverend Maria. I commend to you all of these sisters, because these are sisters who got it going on, who are workers. These are women who are serving their community, who are loving their families, and who want to help love you. So if you've heard something that's resonated with you, if they've said something that has spoken to you, if they have been telling your story and you say, you know what, I would really love to keep that conversation going, reach out. Ladies, I'm going to ask if each of you would drop your contact information in the chat so people can reach out to you. And this is the online chat. Mahogany, please drop that information in there for the song that we didn't get a chance to play. And I'm going to still try to play it as we go off, because again, they need to hear, you know, this is a song for my little brown girls. But I want to thank everybody for tuning in tonight to the conversation on race, on colorism. I'm Dr. Sabrina Black. Thanks so much to my co-host, Denise Smith. You guys see the importance of having a host, especially if you disappear for whatever reason. You got somebody who got your back. Everybody needs somebody that has their back. Tune in again next week in the skin you're in. We love you. Thanks so much for joining us. Good night.
Love you too, Dr. Sabrina, Denise.
Good night.
Good
Love
night.
you.
Love you guys.
Thank you, ladies.
Thank
Love
you.
beautiful sisters.
Love you, beautiful
women.
Beautiful sisters.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Delicious, beautiful chocolates.
Yes.
Love the skin you're in, ladies.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Take care, you all. Thank you so
Love
much
you
for the privilege.
guys.
Yes. Thank you, Dr. Black.
You're most welcome. Thank you so much, Louisa, for joining us tonight. Thank you, Angela, for being the first and the last.
My everything.
My everything.
Good night, ladies. Love you.
Glad to get a chance to do the show with you.
Yes, amen.
And looking forward to doing the book. So for those of who are still holding on, go, wait, are they gone already? There's more to come, because even after the conversation ends, some of this will be in print as well. So take care.